Hi, my name is Jake, and I
am a bookish drummer.
So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the best Stephen King books to read in the summertime. So the best summer Stephen King books. And there's quite a few to pick from. Like normally when I think of Stephen King, I think of him writing in kind of cold, wintry climates, like The Shining at the Overlook Hotel or Misery, like Paul Sheldon getting into that snow accident or Dreamcatcher in the snow, because a lot of his books kind of take place in Maine or like Colorado in the snow. But Stephen King, when I'm thinking about it, he does have a lot of books that have a lot of summer vibes to them. So that's what this video is going to be about. I've got 10 books to recommend to read in the summer. And in fact, a few of these books are going to be read in the summertime for the Stephen King Book Club, run by myself and Ian from Ian the Reader. So perfect time to read these books along with us. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, when I think Stephen King and summer put together, immediately the first book that comes to mind is Doohickey. I mean, look at that cover. That just screams summer. Like one of the rare Stephen King novels to take place mostly on a beach. So definitely location-wise and weather-wise, like this definitely has a very basic summer vibe to it from the cover alone, but also if you read the story, you can't get really more summery than that. So yeah, Doohickey had to be on the list. And of course, this is going to be our June pick for the Stephen King Book Club. I have yet to reread this. I've reread this a few times in my life. One of my all-time favorite Stephen King novels. A few people have already read it, and they've had, some people have really liked it. Some people have mixed opinions on it, but I really want more people to read it because I want more people to love it just like I do. And yes, Doohickey, this is the first book that comes to mind when I think Stephen King summer. And speaking of the Stephen King Book Club, our pick for July is actually going to be The Colorado Kid, which is yet again another great summery vibe. The kind of the backstory of this takes place on a beach, if you couldn't tell from the cover. Basically, what this book is about is basically just a little novella. It's about these people that are kind of talking about a mystery in this town that no one's been able to solve, and the mystery kind of deals with a dead body that's found on a beach, and no one really knows how he got there, how he died, what happened. But a good chunk of this book does take place or revolve around a beach. So it's also just a nice short read. Like you could probably go to the beach and read this in one sitting, and it even has pictures. So in all kind of facets, it's definitely a great summer read for constant readers. And staying in the vein of summer vibes based off of weather, like I mentioned, a lot of Stephen King books takes place in colder climates, or at least like more moderate climates. But these two books in particular both have desert settings. So I feel like these would be better off read in the summer. And that would, of course, be Desperation and The Regulators, both kind of twinner novels, if you will. If you know The Dark Tower, you know that term. But basically, the idea behind these two books is that Desperation and The Regulators have the same setting, and they have the same kind of cast of characters for the most part, but they're two completely different stories, two completely different ideas and premises, but they kind of take place in parallel worlds. So, and it's also kind of interesting because some people love the Desperation and not so much the Regulators. Some people love the Regulators and not so much Desperation. Kind of fall, either on one side or the other. For me, I definitely love the Regulators more than Desperation, but for me, they're both worth the read. And yeah, they both take place in the desert, and I would argue the setting is a very important aspect for both of these books. So yeah, desert vibes, summer, hot, like both of these books I would describe as being hot weather. So yeah, definitely check these out if you haven't already, and summer would probably be a good time to check them out. Speaking of the weather having an important impact on the actual story, I'm definitely going to have to go with Cujo. And if you guys don't know, Cujo is obviously about a rabid dog, and kind of, like at the halfway point, we kind of get to the main conflict where we have a mother and a daughter. No, I'm sorry, you idiot. A mother and a son locked in a car in the heat, no AC, the car won't run. And wouldn't you know it, rabid Cujo is trying to get at them, so they have to stay in the car. And it's summer, it's blistering hot, and they're dehydrated. So like the weather really plays an important aspect. Like it could have been, like a light spring day, and it wouldn't have been that bad. But like it's summer, there's no AC, they have no food or water, it's miserable, and Cujo is coming after them. So weather definitely plays a major role in this book. So I had to include it. Not a very like fun, summery vibe kind of book, but the weather definitely plays an important aspect in this book. So had to include Cujo on the list. And I'll say this next book, the weather kind of plays somewhat of an impact, but it's more just kind of the summery vibe. And it's more kind of because of the location. And I'm going to go with Joyland. And obviously from the cover, you can see that this is taking place in an amusement park. The main character is, I think this is during his summer break from college, or maybe he's kind of decided to quit college. I can't remember. I need to go back and reread this book. But the amusement park definitely makes me think summer, and there is kind of one thing in the book where he kind of plays this mascot, and if you know anything about like being in like a giant costume or anything like that in the summer, you sweat to death. So the weather, kind of plays somewhat of an impact, but mainly it's just kind of the vibe. Like this is definitely a summer kind of book. The amusement park definitely has that summer feel to it. So for me, this would be a great one to read in the summer. So this next book, I wouldn't necessarily say the weather itself plays an important aspect, but this book, a large chunk of it does take place in the summertime, which definitely helps the story kind of progress, and that will have to go with It. And a large chunk of this book is about the Losers Club when they're kids, when they're like preteens, and it's summer vacation, and they're kind of, hanging around in Derry. I don't know how hot it really gets in Derry because it's in Maine. It probably gets hot, but like, it's mainly just because they're on summer vacation, they're out of school, they're kind of just chilling around with their friends, the Losers Club. So yeah, definitely more of a summer vibe in that instance. I don't remember, because this story is kind of takes place in the past, in the 50s, during summer vacation when they're kids. But then you kind of fast forward 27 years later, they're all adults now. I don't remember like what time of year that takes place in. It could be summer. I'm not sure, but definitely, half of this book at least is definite summer vibes because of summer vacation. So these last three books I have to talk about are all actually collections. And I will say probably not every single story in these collections all have summer vibes, but I'm going to at least mention a few in there that I think do. And I would say at least half of this book has definite summer vibes, and that I'm going to go with Different Seasons. And obviously with the title like Different Seasons, you have 4 novellas, and each novella is supposed to kind of represent a season of the year. So Shawshank Redemption, I think, is supposed to represent spring. If I can go here. Hope Springs Eternal, Rita Hayworth, and Shawshank Redemption. So that's not really like a summer book or summer story, I would say. And then also A Winter's Tale, The Breathing Method, definitely not summer vibes there. But I will argue that obviously Summer of Corruption, Apt Pupil, maybe not weather-wise, but like, the story, I would say that's a good summer vibe. But also Fall from Innocence, The Body, I guess I would argue that's more of a summer vibe because you got 4 boyfriends who all kind of go on a little adventure together. That, I argue, would actually be more of a summer vibe than Apt Pupil, but I'll just go with both of them. So The Body, for me, which got turned into the movie Stand By Me, definitely has summer vibes. That's a cool, I would argue that's a summer story. Great one to read or watch in the summer. So yeah, half of Different Seasons, I would say, has good summer vibes to it. And this one might seem a little far-fetched or out there, but I'm going to have to go with at least a few stories in Skeleton Crew. Now, I would argue probably the best indication would be like the raft, because you've got, I think, 4 college students who kind of go, skinny dipping in this lake, and they run into something interesting. But yeah, that story definitely has some summer vibes to it. You've also got, oh man, what else is in here? You've got Mrs. Todd's Shortcut, and for whatever reason, that one always kind of feels like a summer story to me. You've got Beach World, which it has beach in it, but that's actually kind of more like a sci-fi story, so I don't know if that really counts. You've also got The Mist, which that might be summery. That might be more of a fall. I don't know. Definitely comment down below if you guys are agreeing with what I'm saying here. The Mist specifically, like, is that a summer one or is that a fall? Or do you just not care? Comment down below. But yeah, definitely at least the raft in here specifically definitely has good summer vibes for King. And the last collection and the last book that I'll have to mention here to round out the top 10 here would be Just After Sunset. And obviously from the cover alone, like, that sunset just makes me think, it screams summer to me. But also, there's some stories in here where the weather does kind of impact the story at least a little bit. You've got the Gingerbread Girl, which the girl in question there definitely is a runner, and she likes to run like either on the beach or like near the beach. So like that also screams kind of summer vibes. Also A Very Tight Place, if you've read that novella, and just not where you want to be in the summer, but like the weather definitely has an impact on that story. You got Graduation Afternoon, which graduation also makes me think of summer. So yeah, out of all the collections, this is probably the most summery of them all. All right, so that is my list for the best Stephen King summer books and stories. So to recap, this is all out of order, but it definitely has summer vibes. All of the Losers Club are on summer vacation. Just After Sunset, probably the most summery kind of collection that Stephen King has. And then Skeleton Crew, at least for the raft. Like, the raft is definitely more of a summer story. And I would argue half of Different Seasons, Apt Pupil, and especially The Body, even though that's technically the fall story, I would argue that's still a summer story. Joyland, especially for the amusement park aspect, definitely a summer story. Cujo, the hot weather, definitely has a deep impact in their ability to evade Cujo, because it's just so damn hot in that car. And then we've got Double Doozy in Desperation and the Regulators, both desert settings. So for me, that's definitely a lot of summer vibes there. And then probably the top 2, or at least the top 1, like Duma Key, like hands down, full-fledged novel that takes place on a beach. Definitely the best summer vibe. But also The Colorado Kid, which is a lot smaller, but a good chunk of this also takes place on the beach. And that's kind of rare for Stephen King. Like I mentioned, a lot of his books kind of take place, in like small town in rural Maine. So like having books that, take place on a beach is kind of rare for him. So I wanted to shout that out and mention all these books that for me have good summer vibes, or that could be read in the summer and enjoyed maybe a bit more. I don't know. What do you guys think? Comment down below if I missed anything, or did I omit anything? Comment down below what are the best Stephen King summer stories in your opinion. Also, do you want me to eventually do the same thing for, best Stephen King fall stories, best Stephen King winter stories? I don't know if I can think of anything for spring necessarily, but comment all that down below if you've got any ideas for me. And also, like I mentioned, comment down below what is your favorite Stephen King summer story. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are subscribed, stay tuned for more content if I can speak. Try to do Stephen King every Friday. Comment down below what other Stephen King ideas you want to see in the future. I've also got the Bookish Drummer Discord, where, like I mentioned, we are doing the Stephen King Book Club. Duma Key will be read in June, and The Colorado Kid will be for July. Great summer reads. That's kind of why we picked them for those months. And then, what else? Patreon, where you can support me there for as little as $1 a month. That's linked down below. Also linked down below is my Amazon wish list if you want to buy me any books. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I clapped there. I don't usually clap at the end. It's all ruined. I got to start over.